In 1995, a website where you can meet weirdos emerged from the San Fran Bay Area. And in the year 2000, it expanded to include not just cities in the United States, but other countries around the world. That website being Craigslist, of course. I was only slightly kidding about it being a website where you can meet weirdos, although I have heard some pretty odd stories about it. Anyway, it was a great way to advertise yard sales on the web, and it actually worked. People actually used it. Nowadays, with smartphones, we have an even stronger advantage to find yard sales. There are yard sale apps that pull information from the internet to showcase where yard sales are at within your area. One of these apps being the Yard Sale Treasure Map. Not sponsored. Unfortunately, in my area, I don't get many hits, but I always love checking out larger cities. There are usually so many hits, it makes my phone look like it has chickenpox. Oh wait, Because of the rise of social media, yard sales are even easier to locate. On October 3rd, 2016, Facebook launched Facebook Marketplace to compete with existing online marketplaces like Craigslist, eBay, and Amazon. Facebook users now have a dedicated section for buying and selling. They can post just about anything for sale, with a few restrictions, of course. Their listing on Facebook Marketplace is not limited to just their approved Facebook friends, but to every Facebook Marketplace user. All a user has to do is search up yard sale on Marketplace, and all available sales within a selected area show up. They can plan out their route the night before, or depending on if the seller has uploaded photos, they can determine which sale has the highest chance of having better valuables, so they can make that spot their main priority. No need to drive around aimlessly hunting down signs advertising yard sales, and if they do come across a yard sale that hasn't been advertised on Marketplace, that's an even bigger win, mainly because it's getting pretty rare to see sales that aren't being advertised on the internet. Therefore, fewer people stop by, which means there's a solid chance that there could be some good items hanging around that the early birds haven't snatched up yet. Now, the biggest drawback to Marketplace yard sales are the careless sellers who don't post their date of their sale within the description, and even worse, when they don't take down their listing when the sale is over. This can confuse users who aren't tech savvy enough to filter out the older posts to reveal the newest ones. Unless the user recognizes the post from weeks ago, they might make a 10-minute drive to a spot that isn't even hosting a garage sale. Now, call me lazy, but honestly, I don't want to tap my phone a few extra times just to filter out a yard sale that is from 3 weeks ago. Not taking the listing down when the sale is over is on par with people who don't take the time to remove their yard sale signs after the sale. It's pretty annoying. Nowadays, people have started virtual yard sales, and I've seen a blend of traditional and virtual yard sales. Those can be kind of annoying because you can see an item that you are interested in, only for a seller to say, "Oh, someone messaged me saying that they're on the way for that." And you're left standing there in person, cash in hand, literally salivating to get a good deal right then and there. But hey, I guess that's why Cash App was invented, to reserve your items at virtual yard sales. Another trend I've seen recently on Facebook is a closet cleanout. A closet cleanout is a way to sell off unwanted clothes or other goods straight to your approved Facebook friends. So, no need to deal with strangers in most cases. The seller will announce a closet cleanout on a Facebook post, and they'll continue a thread of photos of each item that they have up for sale. In the original post, the seller usually mentions whatever guides they have, like comment claim to the item you want and Cash App and Venmo me to finalize the claim. Finally, the buyer and seller will meet up at agreed upon time and place to exchange the goods. I just thought I'll throw all that in there since it's kind of on the ongoing theme of people getting rid of unwanted goods. But let's talk about some unwanted goods people have sold off that ended up bringing the buyer loads of money. From a $3 buy to over $2 million brought in at auction, this unsuspecting ceramic bowl was bought at a New York yard sale back in 2007. For years, the bowl just sat as a decorative piece on a mantle until the owner decided to have the bowl appraised. The bowl was appraised at $200K to $400K, but it ended up bringing in $2.2 million at auction. But why? Why? The bowl was estimated to be around 1,000 years old. Let me say that again. 1,000 years old. And not only that, but its origins are from China, believed to be made during the Song Dynasty, and it made its way all the way to New York in pretty much mint condition, making this one of the only two known surviving bowls of that era. I mean, can you imagine how much, or I guess how little that bowl went through to survive centuries? I say how little because I can barely get a glass cup to survive having milk poured in it. Now, finding that one valuable long-lost treasure is the dream of most, if not all, yard sale enthusiasts. And those treasures aren't going to be found if they decide to sleep in during Saturday mornings. Right now on YouTube, there's a whole genre of people going out to yard sales, flea markets, and thrift stores capturing footage of amazing finds. If you're a part of my first 100 subscribers, you might recall that's how this channel started out as well. And while I don't hit yard sales as religiously as I used to, I was able to find some amazing things back in those days. Like the time I found a set of used color pencils that were dated back to 1936. 1936. I found those at a church rummage sale for $1 and they ended up selling for $175 on eBay. Pretty crazy, but very cool. Or the time I found this pretty large Game Boy carrying case that contained not only one, but 2 Game Boy Advance SPs and 2 Nintendo DS Lites with a handful of games for, get this, just guess how much I bought all that for. $5. Again, $5. That was also found at a church rummage sale. Now, if you're an avid yard sale hunter, I bet you found some pretty awesome items yourself, so you can just go ahead and comment down below. I'd love to find out what you guys have found. And if you're a viewer who doesn't hit yard sales and is starting to feel hyped to hit a few, just manage your expectations. And don't let it discourage you if your first time hitting yard sales ends up feeling like 4 hours of rummaging through junk. But on the other hand, you could very well find something amazing on your first day out on the hunt. It kind of just takes a little bit of luck and maybe being the first person at the sale. Because honestly, it really is the early bird gets the worm type of deal. And now that we are all so connected through the internet, it really takes no effort to become a new type of early bird, and it's something that has been plaguing yard sales in today's world. So I guess this is a good time to get into my next segment with this video, which is the problem with yard sales today. Yeah, so things aren't so fine and dandy when it comes to yard sales today. And this might end up being a long tangent, but hey, if I'm making the definitive history of yard sales video, then I might as well talk about this problem that I have with them. Or the problems I have with them, really. Oh, and from now on, when I talk about yard sales, garage sales, tag sales, whatever sales, I'm just gonna be less specific and just call it a sale. People who host yard sales will just be called hosts, and people who hunt down and go to yard sales will be called, I don't know, sell goers. I don't really know, the buyers. I should probably just call them buyers to keep it short. So now that that's cleared up, back to the topic. Now that people can be virtually connected to anyone through the internet, that means that anyone posting their sales can have that one guy who is not just an early bird, but an annoying ass virtual early bird. Let me explain. If the post has photos of the items that will be at the sale, then that means early birds will message the host to ask about the items that they are interested in, usually to see if it is possible to buy the item before the sale even starts. If, and this is a big if, the host is a decent person, they'll say, sorry, but no pre-sales. I've literally gone to sales specifically for certain items that I've seen in the advertised photos, end up being the first person to line up 37 minutes before the sale starts, just to have the host tell me, oh, I sold that to someone who messaged me about it yesterday. Look, I know it's not a perfect world. I know I have the same ability as the virtual early bird to reach out to the host, but that's just lazy, weak-ass boy shit. You're not hustling harder than anyone else, and shame on both the virtual early bird and the lame host. At that point, the only thing I can do is just say, oh shucks, that thing you sold them easily sells for X amount of dollars on eBay, at which point the host really doesn't give a damn. But I know deep down at the end of the day, when enough people come up to the sale and they have 2 or 3 more people asking about the same item, the curiosity creeps up on the host and they decide to Google the item and see that that one single item was worth more than their whole yard sale endeavor even brought in. Hopefully, they'll realize, oh, I f***ed up. But that's probably never the case. Here we get to the second problem with yard sales. Everyone has access to eBay information. People who host sales and look up eBay prices beforehand are the worst. A lot of the times they don't know that there is a sold tab, so the initial prices they see are the prices anyone can post for their item. Yes, you can post a dick-shaped Cheeto on eBay for $50. No, that doesn't determine its worth. Dick-shaped Cheetos happen to be worth more than that. Even if the host knows about filtering to sold prices, they're still not taking into account the eBay fees, the shipping fees, and the time it takes to carefully package up the dick-shaped Cheeto and dropping it off to the post office and praying that the person they sold it to doesn't go through the process of asking for a return/refund for whatever fake excuse they have, and they do the classic switcheroo by sending back a brick. The seller is then forced to refund the money and keep a nifty brick with zero chance of getting the original correct item back. And unless you have footage of you opening the return package to reveal a brick with a sticky note that says "suck on this," then you're out of luck, because 9 times out of 10 eBay will side with the buyer because they want the best service for the buyers so that they keep coming back to buy from eBay versus their competitors. So yeah, that thing that sells for $25 on eBay, just set the price to $12. Someone that really wants to buy it will get it at that price, and if not, let them talk you down to $8 to $10. And your item probably isn't even in mint condition like the higher priced ones on eBay are. The next problem with sales are these fake ass sales advertising as yard sales, and when you arrive to the location and you walk out to the items, you see that you've been bamboozled because you're not going to find the beautiful random odds and ends type of items. You get greeted by brand new in the box items that have a big black and yellow price tag that are directly printed onto the box. Yes, I'm talking about the dumb butt yard sales that are nothing but brand new Dollar General items. I don't even know how these sellers are able to get their hands on enough Dollar General merchandise to open up their own Dollar General store in the middle of their driveway. My guess is either penny deals, extreme couponing, or pallet liquidation sites. I don't know. I've stumbled upon these type of sales a few times before, and usually they're from the same damn person that I've pretty much memorized their address and know not to go there whenever they advertise a yard sale. I mean, these sellers sit in their little fold-out chairs of lies, wasting their day away as their little Dollar General items priced 30% off from the original price gets dried out in a hot summer Saturday morning sun. Don't lie and advertise your bullshit sale as a yard sale. I don't want any part of your shenanigans. Well, I guess the only time I'll give these sales a pass is if they're selling quality toothpaste for $1 or less. Because this has happened once. I mean, I walked away with their whole toothpaste supply because they were $0.25 each, and it put me in such a good mood that I even brought other things from that same seller. Yo, it was like 6 boxes of toothpaste. I saved like $30 and I didn't have to worry about buying anymore for like half a year. It was great. Problem number 3, I guess. I've already hit virtual early birds, but traditional early birds can be just as bad. Look, pulling up to a yard sale 20 minutes or more ahead of time is okay, just so long as you keep your pretty little ass in the car. Most likely, the seller isn't done setting everything up, and I don't care if they say it's no inconvenience. You're most definitely an inconvenience, especially if it's only one person setting up the yard sale. They don't want some weirdo rummaging around who could potentially end up stealing something. And don't think I'm exaggerating, people have stolen things from sales before. The only time it might be okay to hit a yard sale as an early bird is if you've been patiently waiting in your car and some dumb fuck pulls up and they get out of the car and start rummaging through the items before the sale starts. By all means, get out the car and beat them to the punch. And hopefully the host won't yell at y'all for being early birds. Also, if you pull up to the yard sale a few minutes early and you already see people rummaging around, just go ahead, punch your steering wheel, and hit the sale. So I feel like I didn't explain this section well enough, but basically just feel out the vibe. If you pull up and the people just look like they're frantically trying to get their yard sale set up and you're 20 minutes early and you park your car and they look at you confused and they check out the time and everything, yeah, you can still ask if you can check it out a little early, but they'll probably say no and wait until whatever time it's supposed to start. Other times, the people might look super relaxed and you're not sure if they're cool with it. So still, just roll down the window and ask. Always just ask for permission if you're early at a yard sale. Don't be rude. The next thing is more of a nitpick, but I figured I'll bring it up because a lot of yard sale hosts do this and it's annoying. The host will do a good job of buying those bright neon pink and or yellow poster boards. Super easy to spot while you're out on the road, right? The problem though, I swear they end up using the thinnest Sharpie to write out the information. I At the very least, they could bolden up the address numbers and add some space in between each number to make it easier to read from afar. The next mistake is adding in unnecessary info to the flyer. I've seen signs where they will jot down examples of the items that they will have, so it ends up looking like a jumbled mess, causing it to be even more difficult to read. I get it sounds like a good idea, but I doubt anyone who isn't interested in sales is going to go out their way to a sale just to buy your pre-owned dishes. Buyers just need a yard sale sign with the address, hours of operation, and to keep it safe, the date. That's all they need to get to your yard sale. Actually, here is the best format for a yard sale sign. Yard sale, nice and big at the top, but not bold. Just big enough so that people can identify that it is indeed a yard sale sign. And then they can move on to the important part, the address. The numbers should be nice and bold with a little bit of space in between each number, and the name of the street can be on the next line down below just as bold. Next, the hours you decide to have the yard sale. And then the date. Look, I know it's not that big of a deal, but most yard sales attract elderly people and they already have trouble seeing as it is. But, oh yeah, the elderly people, yard sales' most common buyers. I might as well cover a few of the other common buyers that I've seen at yard sales, but yeah, starting with the elderly people, also known as old people, these geezers are all about yard sales and they are always at yard sales. Yeah, you can tell like they're super wise and funny, or sometimes you can tell that they've seen some serious shit, so yeah, they're just oldies. They also move pretty slow, so if there's a long line at an indoor church yard sale, you don't want to be stuck behind these folks, especially if the church has a long, narrow entrance. The elderly will be shuffling in slowly while the other folks that were in the front of the line have already scanned the whole sale and are snatching up the good items while you're barely making it past the entrance. Again, trying to avoid being stuck behind a group of elderly people in the line will be a difficult task as they are the most common buyers. Next, we have the resellers. These guys are on a quest to make as much money as possible by finding the highest valued items that will be easy to package and ship for the purpose to sell on eBay or any other online marketplace. Or they'll even take big bulky items in hope of selling them locally. Reseller age has a wide range. You can usually spot a reseller by the way they act, as if it's illegal to use an iPhone while at a sale. The "I'm searching this up" pose is undeniable. Item for sale in one hand, smartphone in the other, back turned to yard sale host, and constantly looking back and forth between an item and an iPhone. You know, and there's some resellers that just are upfront and transparent about there being a reseller. I mean, gotta love the honesty, right? Resellers tend to bargain the most. I mean, every dollar counts when you are trying to sell for profit. Their haggling aggression varies as well as how reasonable their offers are. Resellers are usually big fans of certain reseller YouTube channels because they are trying to gain more knowledge on what type of items are valuable, and they are constantly hitting yard sales the most. Now, not all resellers sell through the internet though. Some buy and collect so they can stock up to resell at a flea market. Resellers kind of get a bad rap because they're literally haggling down the price just to jack up the price later. Honestly, as long as they pay for the item and aren't scamming their own customers, I don't see it as a big deal, especially if their customers end up being extremely happy with their purchase. I can't tell you how many times I bought from someone off of eBay knowing full well that they're just a reseller. I get something that brings in the nostalgic feels, and they get some profit. Win-win. No big deal. Often you'll find collectors at sales as well. I've kind of transitioned from an eBay reseller to collector myself. I'm constantly on a hunt for retro video games and vintage clothes, mainly t-shirts and jackets. Collectors are usually willing to pay up a little more for items versus resellers since they're not interested in profit. And most of the time, whatever they're collecting is much cheaper at a sale versus eBay. Well, unless the sale host claims, "No lowballers, I know what I've got." Finally, we have people who are just curious or just get pure pleasure from being out and about on a Saturday morning to see all the wonderful deals. These people will hit sales casually looking around, hands in their pockets with a slight smile on their face, and very rarely buy anything. And if they do purchase something, and oftentimes it's something for a loved one versus buying for themselves. You'll usually catch all these types of bargain hunters in the early mornings trying to hit as many sales before thrift stores open up because that will be the very next place to hit. Goodwill, the Salvation Army, the Habitat for Humanity, you name it. And as soon as it comes time for those places to open, usually around the hours of 9, 10 a.m., around there, most yard sale goers will start to make their way over there. And here's a pro tip for you. If you're planning on hosting a sale, make sure to place a sign at each thrift store in your area if possible. Extra points if you're able to have those signs up 2 days or more before the day of your sale. And that's pretty much it for the sale goers, but what about the other folks on the other side of the deal? The people hosting the sales. I've encountered a few different types of hosts, so let's go through them. Okay, starting with one of my least favorite sell hosts, those have to be the folks living in the rich, affluent areas that charge way too much for their used items. I get that, yes, maybe they do have nicer items, but this causes them to be less likely to give you a solid deal. Sometimes even down to the smaller items, it gets kind of pricey. I usually avoid these types of places, especially if it looks like there isn't a house in the neighborhood that looks to be worth under 500K. Hey look, usually they're nice people, and this pricing system isn't always the case, but still, I try to avoid the rich areas. If anything, hit the thrift stores that are close to the rich areas if you are trying to find solid deals on nicer items. My number one favorite host are the people who absolutely do not care. Most of the time, these are the people that are hosting a move-in sale, so they just want to get rid of as many things as possible, as fast as possible, without having to deal with the rest. Their pricing might be super low to begin with, but if you start to pile everything together, they might just tell you an incredibly low price for everything. You can usually spot these sellers when it's just some 40-something-year-old looking guy who looks as tired as he sounds with a chill demeanor, and it was probably his wife who told him to get rid of as many things as possible as fast as possible. Extra points if he's packing a box of cigarettes and you see toddler toys spread all around. At that point, you know this guy definitely does not care. The next host are the angry birds. These people will start off pretty normal, but once you make an offer, they're instantly upset. It's like as if you disrespected their mother by tossing out an offer. It's pretty entertaining. First of all, if you're going to have a yard sale, price out your items to leave some room for negotiable prices. You can't act like it's the end of the world just because someone makes an offer. Most of the time, going back and forth a little on price is part of the game. They will also be incredibly angry if they find out you are a reseller for whatever reason. I guess they just can't stand the idea of someone profiting off of them when they're literally being profited off of from like the government and big corporations every day. There isn't much more to say about these kind of hosts except that they're basically just garage sale Karens, and I've unfortunately dealt with like 3 of them before. And if you're interested, if you garage sale Karens are featured in some of those reseller YouTube channels that I've mentioned before, I'm going to try to link them down below in the description. Originally for this next part of the video, I was going to have a long list of yard sale etiquette rules, both as a host and a buyer, but honestly it just boils down to have common sense, have plenty of $1 bills on hand, and don't be a dick. I've already covered the bases for most sales like garage sales, yard sales, and move-in sales. I touched upon church sales a bit, but not all the way through, so I guess I'll elaborate a little bit more on that. Church sales are pretty self-explanatory. A church that decides to host a yard sale. These are usually my favorite ones to go to, especially if it is their first annual sale. There's just such a wide range of items to go through, and if it is the first one that they are hosting, there's a higher chance of snagging up that old Nintendo that some grandma had stored away in her attic. Unless if the church gets more members throughout the years, the more annual sales they have, the less cool vintage items you'll probably find because members have already donated it to the cause years ago. Also, it just takes that one church member that happens to use eBay to offer to list the super valuable shippable items up onto eBay to get max profit instead of selling it at a yard sale price. Churches usually host a sale to raise for whatever charitable cause, so it's just better not to haggle on pricing, and heck, if you can donate a few extra dollars, why not? Sometimes a church will host a sale for multiple days, usually by starting on Fridays and ending on Sunday. There's a church in my town that does that, and after 3 p.m. on Sunday, everything that's left over from the sale ends up being free. I mean, they're probably just trying to get rid of all the leftover stuff because yeah, that's a lot of stuff to deal with at the end of a sale. Another sale that would last multiple days are estate sales. These sales usually start on Fridays and end on Sundays, but it can vary for different cases. An estate sale can occur for different reasons, like a homeowner is downsizing, bankrupt, or most commonly, a homeowner has passed away and the remaining relatives are too busy with everything else that they don't have the time to deal with all the remaining possessions. They hire out an estate sale business to run a large sale. That includes advertising the sale, organizing and pricing the items as well. Since the sale is run by a legitimate business, you might end up having to pay taxes on your items and expect to pay up a little more in an estate sale versus a normal yard sale. This is because the business is expected to properly price the items, so they're using eBay and other websites to determine the price for each unique item. And usually you will find a lot of different unique items at an estate sale, and it isn't hard to tell if the homeowner was a fan of collecting certain items like Coca-Cola products or all-around Christmas items, and that's usually the case in my area. I don't really get to see any cool, eccentric collectors here in my area. What I really like about estate sales is just being able to explore a whole house that pretty much has everything up for sale. That's right, estate sales are held right there within the very house of the previous owner. Being able to just explore someone else's house can be pretty fun, especially if the owner had a unique taste beyond generic grandparents' house. To encourage people to keep coming back, the estate sale will usually offer a heavy discount on all items as each day passes, usually offering 50 to 75% off on the final day of the sale. That's a pretty big discount. You want to know what else is big? The 127 yard sale, an annual sale touted as the world's longest sale that stretches from Michigan to Alabama. This huge yard sale started way back in 1986 by a guy named Mike Walker as a way to promote cultural and economic exchange. And although I've never been to this particular sale, I found an interesting article by Kendall Waldman that documents the whole experience. I'll link that article down below if you're interested. The 127 yard sale isn't the only yard sale in the United States that spans several miles. I have had the pleasure of experiencing South Carolina's The Big Grab. The Big Grab, what a name. Now, the Big Grab is another large sale, but it isn't as grand as the 120 sale. The Big Grab spans 50 miles within one state during a 2-day event, while the 127 sale stretches across 6 states, which they claim is 690 miles long. Nice. So the Big Grab isn't as much of a Goliath as its counterpart, but still the sale can be pretty overwhelming as well as underwhelming. Overwhelming because of all the action, the vendors, the different locations to hit, and underwhelming when you realize it's just a bunch of vendors that usually sell at flea markets, so a lot of their items might have already been picked through, and prices are a bit higher than you'd expect at a regular yard sale. Honestly, I feel like the best places to hit during these kinds of sales are the houses in the surrounding area. The vendors of the bigger yard sales are required to pay a fee in order to have a spot to sell their items, so that usually just kind of makes them want to mark up the price a little bit more. And homeowners in the surrounding area can just take advantage of all the extra traffic and can host their own little sale in their own yard free of the fees. Now, the last time I hit the Big Grab was back in 2021. My brother, his girlfriend, my wife, and I stayed at an Airbnb the night before the sale started, and we made a 2-day bargain hunt out of it. We didn't limit ourselves to just the Big Grab, but we took advantage of surrounding thrift stores as well. It was pretty fun. I mean, I didn't find anything crazy, but I was able to get a couple of decent items. Now, if you want to hit your state's largest sale, well, it's pretty easy. It seems like many states across the country host this type of largest yard sale, and all it takes is a simple Google search to find information about it. Georgia, Florida, Texas, and California were some of the states that I Googled, and they all seem to have at least one largest yard sale event, with Florida having at least 3 of them. Just Google your state followed by largest yard sale. Simple as that. And if those type of sales seem a bit overwhelming or don't catch your interest, then town-wide yard sales are also an option, allowing goers to hit multiple sales in one day and probably have better items as well. Honestly, if my video is able to convince at least one of you to have your own yard sale, or convince you to wake up at the crack of dawn on a beautiful Saturday morning to hit yard sales, then my work here is done. Originally, at this point, I was going to edit in 2 different Saturdays of super spectacular yard sale journeys. So I'm going to risk it for a biscuit. Good morning.
Morning.
It starts at 6, right?
Yeah, running behind because I've done had so many people here already. They started literally at 4:40 when I started pulling stuff out.
What? Oh my lord, look, another random yard sale right here. But it wasn't that interesting, and the runtime would have been too long. But just know that I got some crazy deals, huh? So that's all I've got to say about yard sales for now. Click right here if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, and after that you can click here to check out another one of my videos. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the flippity flip.
And I slept all the way to the concert. When I got there, everybody was smoking pot. So I got a secondhand pie, and I slept slept through the concert. I heard one song from each band. That was it.